Paul Collingwood would have been delighted with the start his side made to our LV County Championship game of the week as Chris Nash edged Graham Onions to Callum MacLeod to go to the game's fourth delivery. But all that did was bring Matt Mason in to join his captain Ed Joyce, and the two informed players were soon putting bat to ball to very good effect. Sussex have made a very bright start to their campaign, defeating both newly promoted teams in Hampshire and Worcestershire, and in these two left-handers they have men in good nick with the bat. It's never easy to score runs at the Riverside, but these two were soon scorching the ball across the turf in a very aggressive opening to what turned out to be an extraordinary day, most notably for first-class debutant Oliver Robinson. More of him later on. There were plenty of early boundaries, including this top-edge maximum for Joyce off the bowling of Chris Rushworth. The 50 was up in only the 11th over, with Joyce looking in sublime form. As each season begins, the Sussex skipper calmly goes about his business, racking up one big score after another. Last season, in spite of missing some cricket while with Ireland, Joyce was still able to accumulate 1,400 championship runs, with a sensational 700s included. He'd added 88 runs in little time with Machen when the latter was out for 41, John Hastings with some early success as he trapped the batsman in front shortly after having him spilled in the slips. Not that Machen liked this decision too much. Even better for the home team was that in the next over, Usman Arshad was also celebrating, although Joyce for once would not have been too pleased with the execution of his cut shot, which searched out Mark Stoneman. 88 for 3 became 112 for 4 as Craig Cachopa's indifferent start to the summer continued, he nicking off to Hastings after making 16. It was nothing more than the bowler deserved. He'd easily been the pick of the attack in the morning. Into the afternoon, and the visitors slipped further to 121 for 5 when Onions returned to have Luke Wright out on the pull. Wright is a man who lives and dies by the sword. He was on his way for 16. Harry Finch survived an early appeal for a catch behind, but was on his way with 11 runs to his name, Rushworth joining the party as Durham, who thrashed Somerset in their only 4-day game to date, started to take control. Indeed, Rushworth had something more to smile about in his next over, as Ajmal Shahzad, who's made such an impressive start to his Sussex career, nicked off for a duck on this occasion. And when Ben Brown made it 3 in 3 successive overs from Rushworth, Sussex had slumped from 88 for 1 to 151 for 8, losing 7 wickets for 63 runs in the space of 19 overs. Durham were all over their opponents. 20 runs later and Steve McGoffin nicked Arshad behind, and Sussex looked as if they were not going to register a single batting bonus point as they found themselves on 171 for 9. The last pair were made up of Matthew Hobden and Robinson, a man who had his contract at Yorkshire terminated last July for, and I quote, a number of unprofessional actions. He has since impressed in the Sussex second team and was now given his chance to make his first-class debut at the age of 21, hence no name or number on his back. In with him was Hobden, a man with only 10 first-class games himself under his belt and with a top score with a bat of only 18. Robinson had 11 runs to his name when Hobden joined him, and an end to the innings was surely nigh. Not at all as it was to turn out. In fact, what followed was an assault. Robinson dominated the scoring initially in what was to become a record 10th wicket stand for Sussex, beating the one of 156 held by George Cox Sr. and Harry Butt against the Cambridge students way back in 1908. The new boy, who's the stepson to England's assistant coach Paul Farbrace and came up through the Kent system before heading to Yorkshire, moved to a maiden 50 off 48 balls with his 9th 4. Durham looked to try to bounce their way to a wicket at times, but Hobden showed batting skills never seen before in his short career thus far. He and Robinson began to make batting look rather easy, in fact, and made a nonsense of the collapse before these two came together to also put on the best ever last wicket stand against Durham, that previously being the 146 made by Peter Martin and Glenn Chappell for Lancashire 18 years ago. Hobden will remember this moment for some time to come as he pulled Rushworth, who thought he'd had him caught behind moments before, to the rope for his 8th 4 to go with 1-6 from 65 deliveries. That boundary, unbelievably, also brought up the Sussex 300, and that was just a dream when these two came together. Into the next over, and Robinson, a man who clearly knows one end of a bat from the other, closed in on a quite extraordinary 100. Two more fours were taken off Hastings as the all-rounder, for that is what we must call him, moved quickly from 90 to 99. So here we go, to the very first ball of Rushworth's next over. Robinson pulled it to the boundary and then jumped for joy. And why not? What a performance from a man few would have even heard of before this day. Yet he was in the record books after securing 100 made at a run a ball and including 17 fours. It was a day that Robinson will surely never ever forget, nor will many of those who witnessed it firsthand. Do not, though, forget Hobden in all of this. He lifted Keaton Jennings a long, long way into the distance as he moved on to 65. The partnership between these two getting up to 164, the runs being made in only 28 overs as well. So it must have been with enormous relief that straight after a delayed tee, Arshad finally got shot of Robinson for 110. He was out to his 112th delivery, while Hobden ended unbeaten on 65, an innings containing 9 fours and 2 sixes. Those two had somehow carried their team to a total of 335, and believe it or not, Robinson wasn't done yet. Jennings and Stoneman continued the free scoring by taking on both McGoffin and Shazad as they knocked off 88 of the runs in 15 overs. Robinson was given the ball after 9 overs of the reply, and in his 4th he bagged the wicket of Jennings for 35. Joyce the catcher. Robinson was probably starting to think that none of this was real. It is, however, here for all of us to see. And after Stoneman had helped himself to a 54-ball half-century of his own, it was Robinson who sent him on his way before the close. Joyce again the delighted man to hold on. Robinson was able to end the day with figures of 6 overs, 2 maidens, 2 for 25. And you can hear his thoughts on an incredible day elsewhere. Durham closed on 103 for 2. What a day it had been, with 438 runs scored for 12 wickets. It doesn't get much more entertaining for our LV County Championship game of the week. Durham will start the second day 232 runs behind. Who knows what we'll see next?